After several delays, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas announced on Sunday, the 10th of April 2016, that the much-anticipated constitutional referendum would be held on Tuesday, the 7th of June 2016. Since Parliament already possessed the power to address 3 of the 4 bills in the House of Assembly, many Bahamians have questioned the purpose of this upcoming referendum.
I don't see the need for a referendum even on the citizenship matters, which is one that has sort of torn the heart of Bahamians, for the simple reason that the government of the Bahamas, under Article 13 of the Constitution and the Bahamas Nationality Act, which came into force on the same day as the Constitution, the 10th of July 1973, had and still has the power to confer citizenship on all of those persons who are now complaining. In fact, if they are so minded, they can go back and correct their wrongdoing and not granting it where it ought to have been granted. Nobody will complain if they do the right thing. It's only when you do wrong that people complain.
While announcing the date of the referendum, the government also decided to launch its own Vote Yes campaign, well funded by taxpayers' money. They also decided not to fund the Vote No campaign, a decision not well received by the majority of Bahamians.
I think it is wrong to tell me that I must vote yes because these are good bills and not show me the bills, not let me read the bills, not let me actually even see them in the newspapers. I had to personally send someone to the House of Assembly, a place I never go if I can avoid it, because I was a judge. I avoid the other side. I had to send someone there to get a copy of the bills. And when they got the copy, when they went there, they had to wait while they photocopy one copy of each bill for me. But to tell the Bahamian public that those bills are what they say they are, without giving them an opportunity to read the bills for themselves, is wrong. Plainly wrong.
Do you know that the government refused to accept the recommendation to enshrine marriage in our Constitution as being between a born male and a born female? And do you also know that the government refused to accept the recommendation of their own appointed Constitutional Commission to make the position clear? That same-sex marriages are not permitted under the Constitution. As a professional woman and a mother of 2, I am deeply concerned about the direction that our country is going in. So let's be sure and close the door and vote no on Bill number 4.
This ad is sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee. All roads lead to Bahamas Faith Ministry. This coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016, for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. Come and be informed about why we are voting no on Bill number 4. There will be special presentations from Mr. Harvey Tynes QC, the Honorable Gregory Moss, Member of Parliament for Marcos City, Pastor Mario Moxie, and for the first time on our community forum, retired Justice Dame June Sawyer. We will also share the 7 reasons why you should vote no on Bill number 4. Live this coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016 at the Miles E. Monroe Diplomat Center, starting at 7 p.m. So calling all churches, youth groups, and Bahamians everywhere, join us for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. We want to see you there.
We believe in the preamble of this nation. We believe in a nation that espouses Christian values. We believe that we as a people must continually raise the standard of spiritual intensity, moral integrity, and physical purity. By marking your vote to no, you are actually raising the standard in our nation. This referendum is a constitutional referendum, which simply means that it is a binding referendum. The government does not have the authority to undo what you will do in this referendum. When you go to the polls on June 7th and you mark your X to no, no government can change that. You have a voice and you are empowered, so exercise that voice. Get out to the polls come June 7th. Mark your X with confidence because the government cannot change it. Don't stay at home. Don't be caught napping. Go out and encourage as many people as you can to do the same and vote no come June 7th.
This ad is being sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee. Leading up to the constitutional referendum, the country was told that the 4 controversial bills were first about women's rights, then men's rights, then children's rights, and then we were told that they were really all about gender equality.
I think that they're trying to say they want gender equality, but I'm not sure what gender equality means in what they're saying. Because in relation to the Constitution of the Bahamas as I read it, every article from Article 16 down talks about no person or every person in the Bahamas. And a person is a person irrespective of their gender. And each person in the Bahamas has a right to the protection of the law when they are confronted by governmental authorities. And that is what the Bill of Rights in the Constitution is all about. The protection of the citizen against overreaching by the administration, the governmental administration.
You know, as I talk to women around this nation, one of the things that become painfully obvious to me is the burden and the pain that these women are carrying that see through the smoke screen of what's going on in this national referendum on June 7th. They themselves do not see this as a gender equality bill. As a matter of fact, we don't even call it a gender equality bill. We call it a citizenship bill that's being purported on Bahamians. And many women are really frustrated and angry about the notion that this covert bill of same-sex marriage is attempting to be snuck into this country, leveraging the emotions of women. And that is extremely disturbing to so many women that I come in contact with. So my position is really their position. This is not about gender equality. This is all about a way to get same-sex marriage, the way to get sex into the Constitution of our nation.
No, the questions are not in relation to gender equality. The questions are in more Bills 1, 2, and 3, more in a form of citizenship. Bill 4 leaves one to question where its place with respect to Bills 1 and 3. Bill 4 speaks to sex, and I think if when you go deep into it, sex wanted to insert sex or enshrine sex into the Constitution, into Article 26. When you look at that, must be read in conduit or along with Article 15. And Article 15 is said to be the preamble, speaking about race, creed, origin, political affiliation, basically the fundamental rights that a Bahamian enjoy under the Constitution. So to answer your question, more about citizenship, Bills 1 and 2 and 3. 4, it's out of left field.
Now, the latest message coming in from the Vote Yes campaign is that the bills are really all about equal rights.
The law treats men as men and treats women as women. Up until 1965, there were no female police officers in the Bahamas. People forget that too. In 63, we got a constitution which meant that you couldn't do, which meant that the male police officers couldn't search females arrested. And so you had female police officers to do that. So the law was changed to adapt to that. The law has always treated women differently when it came to murder and infanticide, because a pregnant woman could not be hung for obvious reasons. If you kill her, you kill the innocent child. Right. A woman who killed her child in the first year of its life because she's suffering from a mental illness called postpartum depression, could only be convicted of infanticide. No man could be taken advantage of infanticide. So how do you treat different alike in every circumstance? How do you treat me as a man in every circumstance? How do I treat you as a woman in every circumstance? It's nonsensical. It is trying to turn life on its head. We are different for reasons that the race needs us to be different. Our differences are not meant to stop us from being full human persons. And the law doesn't try to do that. The law doesn't prevent us from being full human persons. We prevent ourselves from being full human persons when we listen to rubbish.
The whole question about equal rights for men and women, begs the question, what right do Bahamian women not enjoy that inserting the word sex in Article 26.3 will now give them? No one has told us what rights Bahamian women are being denied. And so if you're going to change the Constitution to give women equal rights, then obviously you ought to tell us what rights that men have that women don't have. And so certainly one cannot buy that argument about this being about equality of men and women if you can't tell me what the inequality is that presently exists.
I think women enjoy more rights than men in reality, practicing in the family division, matrimonial, and in that area of the court. I see women, the laws or rulings tend to side with women. Men, when it comes to custody of a child, if a man is unable to prove that a woman is unfit, even though unfit to care for the child, even though there may be some things where the woman may not properly take care of the child, but if he cannot prove that she's unfit, he doesn't get custody. The child remains with the mother unless social services is involved in the proceedings. But I think the law as it stands is pro-woman, and men are seen to be they go along with the program. Women tend to rule, as Beyonce say, who runs the world? Girls. So in actuality, women tend to lead in that area of the law.
I don't necessarily see this as an equal rights debate. One of the most interesting things, I think, in this whole process, as the Constitutional Commission had a forum with pastors, I had asked the question to the chairman. I can see the application of Bill number 1, Bill number 2, and Bill number 3. And my question is, what is the application for Bill number 4? And after a brief huddle with other commissioners, the response was, Bill number 4 is more cosmetic, it's more symbolic. And if anything, we can see where men would be able to apply for paternity leave. And so based on that answer and that response, these bills really speak to something else. And they speak to something I believe that is happening in the global front, where nations like the Bahamas and other Caribbean nations are feeling this pressure to comply with the exportation of gay rights around the world. That pressure is being brought to bear on many nations, and of course it's happening in Jamaica, where Jamaica took a stand a couple of years ago, and they decided that they were going to define in their constitution that marriage should be between a man and a woman. In a couple of weeks after our referendum, Bermuda would be going to referendum as well to vote on same-sex marriage. So the Bermuda government, they came right out and they put it on the table. Our government is using this covert way to bring it into this nation, and I think that's wrong.
I would think the law sees everybody as a person before the law. Children have special protections. Women have special protections. Men under a certain age have certain protections. Men with mental disabilities or women with mental disabilities have certain protections in the law. The law tries to treat people fairly. That's what it's supposed to do.
We believe in the preamble of this nation. We believe in a nation that espouses Christian values. We believe that we as a people must continually raise the standard of spiritual intensity, moral integrity, and physical purity. By marking your vote to no, you are actually raising the standard in our nation. This referendum is a constitutional referendum, which simply means that it is a binding referendum. The government does not have the authority to undo what you will do in this referendum. When you go to the polls on June 7th and you mark your X to no, no government can change that. You have a voice and you are empowered, so exercise that voice. Get out to the polls come June 7th. Mark your X with confidence because the government cannot change it. Don't stay at home. Don't be caught napping. Go out and encourage as many people as you can to do the same and vote no come June 7th.
This ad is being sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee. All roads lead to Bahamas Faith Ministry. This coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016, for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. Come and be informed about why we are voting no on Bill number 4. There will be special presentations from Mr. Harvey Tynes QC, the Honorable Gregory Moss, Member of Parliament for Marco City, Pastor Mario Moxie, and for the first time on our community forum, retired Justice Dame June Sawyer. We will also share the 7 reasons why you should vote no on Bill number 4. Live this coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016 at the Miles E. Monroe Diplomat Center, starting at 7 p.m. So calling all churches, youth groups, and Bahamians everywhere, join us for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. We want to see you there. The following are remarks from Dame June Sawyer regarding the referendum.
I don't believe that there's anything in the Constitution that forbids the government from doing right. The Constitution forbids them doing wrong. Article 26 and the whole of those provisions from 16 onwards are not concerned with gender issues. His agenda is to change Article 26 to reflect what Mr. Christie said in 2014 or 2015 last year, that we must get in step with the rest of the world with regard to the way we treat people of the LGBT community. And the point about law, as I understood it, is you don't draft laws for those with good intention, how they will interpret it, but those with bad intention. You want to prevent them from having an opportunity to exercise those bad intentions.
Vote no on Bill number 4 on Referendum Day. This ad is being sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee.
We have a lot of people that come to our country, I think they solicit our country in reference to marriage for convenience. And so for that will be one of the reasons why I'll be voting no again. That's my views on it.
One of the major requests from local pastors throughout the years was for the government to include a definition of marriage in the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
One of the points that I think we need to establish and make absolutely clear is that nowhere in our Constitution is marriage defined as a union between a man and a woman. That is a request that was made of the government, or a recommendation that was made in the 2006 Commission's report, that we include in the Constitution a provision that indicates that marriage in the Bahamas is between a man and a woman. The government has refused to include a definition for marriage in the Constitution that makes it absolutely clear that marriage is between a born male and a born female. And so that begs the question, why?
One of the most interesting and profound things, the greatest argument that anyone could present to the Commission is the commission words themselves. The Constitution Commission said that if we don't clearly define marriage between a man and a woman and make that position clear in the Constitution, it can easily be construed that by inserting the word sex, it can be interpreted or even open the door to same-sex marriage. So the whole notion, when I hear the Yes campaign talking about this has nothing to do with same-sex marriage, the greatest argument anyone can ever present to them is their own report. It's in black and white. And I believe that many persons on the Yes campaign are of the notion that if you want to hide something, put it in the book and Bahamians will never read it. Well, the truth of the matter is the electorate that is going to the polls on June 7th is a highly intelligent electorate, and they do read. And when they do read the report, they see for themselves that the commissioners themselves were concerned and thought that it was in the best interest of the Bahamian people who had voiced their concern during the consultation process to define marriage between a man and a woman, to insert a clause in the Constitution that emphatically states that a marriage would be between a man and a woman. And so now at this point to say, well, no, this has nothing to do with same-sex marriage is extremely disingenuous. So the greatest proof, the greatest argument, I believe, are their own words that are now being used against them.
There's no real definition as to marriage under the Matrimonial Clauses Act. They would say that under the Matrimonial Clauses Act, Section 21C speaks to marriage being it's void between male and female. That's not a definition. It's saying that the marriage is void, but it doesn't define marriage between a man and a woman. Now, but there is a definition under marriage, for marriage, and that is defined under the Maritime Marriage Act of 2011. That in fact defines marriage as it being between a man and a woman. Now, that Maritime Marriage Act is only for the purpose of persons who are on a sea vessel in the area of the Bahamian waters, and they can be married on that vessel as long as they are man and woman. Our Marriage Act does not define marriage, and I think it's disingenuous for persons in the legal profession to say that, because now if sex is in fact inserted in the Constitution, that is in fact will open the floodgates. And Section 26(3) and inserted there, that opens the floodgate. Now they are saying now Section 26(4) protects marriage. It does, but not in a sense if sex is enshrined under 26(3). So it's a competing, and when you look at Parliament can amend the Marriage Act once that is inserted in Section 26.
The 2013 Constitutional Commission recognized that by including the word sex in Article 26(3) of the Constitution, it could lead to challenges, and as a result, they made a recommendation to the government to include a provision that would make it absolutely clear that the inclusion of the word sex in Article 26(3) was not opening the door to same-sex marriage. That was a recommendation included in the Constitutional Commission's report to the government. Pastors are not the persons who raise this issue about opening the door. The Constitutional Commission themselves pointed out to the government that this could possibly open the door. And they recommended to the government that they make provision in the Constitution so that this door is not opened. Therefore, it really is unkind and untrue for pastors to be blamed with bringing about fear tactics concerning same-sex marriage. The government refused to amend the Constitution to include a definition for marriage as between a born male and a born female. And secondly, they rejected the Commission's recommendation to make it clear so that there are no challenges They refused to accept the Commission's recommendation in that regard. This is verifiable very easily by going to the Commission's own report on page 125, section 15.63 addresses this whole question.
The proponents of the vote yes argue that by including sex into Article 26 of the Constitution, which they say is defined as male and female, would bring about gender equality.
No, it doesn't, because as I indicated, Article 26 and the whole of those provisions from 16 onwards are not concerned with gender issues. Because whether you are a male, female, child, adult, LGBT, whatever you are, once you have the frame of a human person, you are a person. And those provisions protect persons from overweening governmental authorities.
I'm surprised that we did not learn from the example of Jamaica. Jamaica avoided the use of the word sex. And certainly it appears as if the whole purpose of this referendum is to get the word sex in Article 26.3 of the Constitution. Jamaica, in amending their constitution, decided that they will make a provision so that discrimination is not allowed on the basis of being either male or female. They did not use the word sex, and for good and valid reason. They knew where that would lead.
Here are the 7 reasons to vote no on Bill number 4. Reason number 1. The government has refused to amend the Constitution to define marriage as a union between a born male and a born female. Reason number 2. The government has refused to accept the recommendation of the Constitutional Commission to make the position clear that same-sex marriages are not permitted under our Constitution. Reason number 3. By refusing to define marriage in the Constitution as a union between a born male and a born female, and by amending the Constitution to prohibit discrimination based on sex, the door will be open to provide a constitutional right to same-sex marriages and/or recognition of same-sex unions. Reason number 4. There is currently a growing trend for courts and judges to define sex to include sexual orientation, no matter how it may otherwise be defined. We should not amend our Constitution to add sex in Article 26.3, because by doing so, a judge following the current trend would be able to treat sex and sexual orientation in the same manner and thereby protect same-sex unions. Reason number 5. If the amendments proposed in Bill number 2 and Bill number 4 are passed in the referendum, the government may then, without consultation with the people, ignore the wishes of the people, amend the Matrimonial Causes Act, and legitimize same-sex marriages. The result would be that the foreign same-sex husband or same-sex wife of a Bahamian man or woman who marries outside the Bahamas would be entitled to be registered as a citizen of the Bahamas. Reason number 6. The government did not keep their word to honor the results of the gambling referendum, which proves that their word cannot be trusted. However, this is a binding referendum which amends or refuses to amend the Constitution. The government is mandated to stand by the results. This time, your no vote cannot be ignored when you reject the amendments to the Constitution. Reason number 7. This is the most important referendum in our nation's history. There's too much at stake. We agree with leading and distinguished constitutional experts that there is nothing wrong with our Constitution, including Article 26. The insertion of the word sex in Article 26.3 will set the stage for the introduction of same-sex marriage, the recognition of same-sex unions, and the erosion of the moral fabric of our nation. So don't stay at home. Be sure to go to the polls and vote no on Bill number 4. There are some in the legal community and throughout the country that believe if Bill 4 passes, Parliament will essentially be kicking the proverbial ball regarding any attempt to legalize same-sex marriage in the Bahamas down to the courts to decide.
I think it's worse than that. I think it's kicking it down to the people, just as the gambling referendum was. The people voted no for the gambling referendum. Parliament went ahead and still did what they wanted to do, didn't they? And then they said it was not a referendum, it was a, what is it, not opinion poll. A very expensive opinion poll. I think I use scripture as my base for most things that I think about. I'm sorry, I'm one of those people, that's where I get my upbringing, okay? It seems to me that they are trying to do to us what was done in our Lord's, you remember the execution of our Lord when they turned to the crowd and what they said, his blood be on us and on our children. Well, I'm not going to let his blood be on me. If they want to make a decision that they think is right, then have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and say, we think it is right, and do it. You have the power to do it. Don't ask me to do your job. You're being paid well by us. You're flying all over the place at our expense. Do your job. Don't ask me to do it.
I do think that Parliament has the power to do what it can do when it comes to these bills 1, 2, and 3, because they are citizenship bills. And Article 13 of the Constitution gives Parliament the provision and the power to enshrine things that were not provided for in Articles 3, Articles 4, Article 5, Article 6, Article 7, Article 8, and Article 9, and Article 10, which deals with citizenship. Parliament can't do that. The exception comes to Article 26, where Parliament needs this referendum to amend it, to place sex into the article. So yes, I think Parliament is passing the buck. Reminds me of a biblical story, you know, when Jesus was taken to be crucified, and Pontius Pilate said, "This is not my decision, but this is of you," and he washes his hand and threw it for the people. So I think the government is doing the same thing.
By inserting sex into the Constitution, what happens is that word sex can now be interpreted. And we're saying that by shoring up the word and making sure that we say by man and woman, that kind of gives some clarity. Well, the truth of the matter is, just by inserting the word sex itself opens the door for all sorts of different definitions, and even for that definition itself to be challenged in a court of law. We've seen in cases around the world, and already the former Chief Justice, Sir Michael Barnett, has been on record as to state that it's only a matter of time before we in the Bahamas begin to look at this issue of same-sex marriage, that it will come to the courts. And when it does arrive to the courts of the Bahamas, they would have no other choice but to look at cases emanating out of Canada, Australia, and the United States. What is interesting about that statement is in all three of those countries, same-sex marriage is now legal, and battles had been fought in court in those cases, and the court has ruled in favor of same-sex marriage. So if we're looking at those nations, that tells us or gives us a preview of what those outcomes may be. So the process is basically someone going to the marriage officers, marriage register, to have their same-sex marriage registered and recorded, and of course they would be denied. If sex is inserted in the Constitution, they now have a basis by which to challenge that in a court of law. In a court of law, it's now left up to the interpretation of the judge, and you have both sides arguing, both lawyers. We can see right now that many lawyers in this nation do not even agree in terms of whether or not it opens the door. Some are saying no, it can't, and others are saying yes, it can, and it will open the door based on what they see happening around the world. So now again, you go to court, and now the court is faced with a mandate. And that mandate is, how do we rule, not based on how we feel, but how do we rule based on what is now in the Constitution of our nation? This one word, sex, creates such an incredible issue that even if the judge locally was to rule against same-sex marriage, we know that it will be challenged, and it will eventually reach not just the Court of Appeals locally, but the Privy Council in England. And in England, the justices there are very, very liberal and have a tendency of creating laws and creating judgment in favor of policies that based on their social philosophy. Their social philosophy is one of same-sex marriage. So we take a roundabout way to come right back here, and now we have justices who are not even part of our culture, who are not even part of our traditions, making a decision on behalf of Bahamians, which is so undemocratic.
While the debate regarding Bill 4 rages on, there are some who believe that the current Marriage Act stands vulnerable and would be changed if Bill 4 succeeds.
No one can challenge the Marriage Act because the Constitution protects it from challenge, in the sense that I can't sue the government to say change the Marriage Act thing, but that doesn't prevent the government from changing it. They have the power to change it. But if they want to change it, don't ask me to make the decision for you. Make the decision. If you are brave enough and you have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and be counted for what you say you believe, change it. And don't ask me to vote for it because it's going to bring prosperity to my children and my great-grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, because I will never, ever sell my birthright for a mess of pottage. My name is Joan, not Esau. Then a challenge can be made to the existing matrimonial Marriage Act, which prescribes that marriage must be between a man and a woman only, and forbids homosexual unions. The reason why I said that is very recent history. United States last year, before they went on the summer break, ruled 5-4. That is a human right for a man to be able to marry a man and a woman to be able to marry a woman. Well, if that is a human right, I don't know what a human wrong is. Because human rights, as I understood it, was always in regard to the government not being able to oppress the population. That's what the human rights always were. Slavery, we couldn't control slavery. If a slave was bought, the slave didn't choose that. I choose who I wanted to marry. A person who is a Hindu chooses who he wishes to marry. A Muslim chooses Jews, whatever religion you are. Even if you don't have a religion, you choose your partner. The law doesn't deal with that to the extent that the Constitution has taken that on board. The Constitution does not forbid marriage in any form. The Matrimonial Causes Act, the Marriage Act, says what marriage is.
All roads lead to Bahamas Faith Ministry this coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016, for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. Come and be informed about why we are voting no on Bill number 4. There will be special presentations from Mr. Harvey Tynes QC, the Honorable Gregory Moss, Member of Parliament for Marco City, Pastor Mario Moxie, and for the first time on our community forum, retired Justice Dame June Sawyer. We will also share the 7 reasons why you should vote no on Bill number 4. Live this coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016 at the Miles E. Monroe Diplomat Center, starting at 7 p.m. So calling all churches, youth groups, and Bahamians everywhere, join us for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. We want to see you there. The following are remarks from Dame June Sawyer regarding the referendum.
I don't believe that there's anything in the Constitution that forbids the government from doing right. The Constitution forbids them doing wrong. Article 26 and the whole of those provisions from 16 onwards are not concerned with gender issues. His agenda is to change Article 26 to reflect what Mr. Christie said in 2014 or 2015 last year, that we must get in step with the rest of the world with regard to the way we treat people of the LGBT community. And the point about law, as I understood it, is you don't draft laws for those with good intention, how they will interpret it, but those with bad intention. You want to prevent them from having an opportunity to exercise those bad intentions.
Vote no on Bill number 4 on referendum day. This ad is being sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee.
Voting for Bill number 1 and Bill number 3. Bill number 2 and 4, I'm messing with that. And I'm there. Number 4 is so controversial. If it's so much, why they can't take the word sex out of it? They leave it open. You know what I'm saying? I support a man and a woman to be married. You know what I'm saying? But since they leave the word sex in there, I could go either way. You know what I'm saying? So therefore I vote no on it. Until they correct it and put the right word in, I vote no. That's how I see the country should go.
There are also several QCs who have said recently that since sex is already included in Article 15 of the Constitution, that same-sex marriage can presently take place in the Bahamas.
I am shocked that a QC would say things like, I'm going to vote yes, but I don't agree with the yes campaign. Why on earth, if you were having a referendum for national reasons, you would have to have a campaign to convince people? Doesn't that sound like politics? And if it's politics, where will it end? Politics, we know, deals with expediency. We must deal with truth. We must base our future on truth. And we must stop hiding behind what is convenient, what is expedient. We must stop it and address the issues. The issues are very serious issues, but they're not in these documents. The issue is corruption. The issue is dishonesty in government. The issue is maladministration. Those are the issues that call forth real work and real problems for the country.
I think that is a bit misleading. If that was the case, one would say, why hasn't it been challenged before? One would say, well, if you have known many men who wish to date other men or marry other men, will travel to Canada, they will travel to other parts of the world to marry, not marry here in the Bahamas. They do not even seek to register their marriage. And if that was the case, they could have done that under the present Constitution.
By voting yes for Bill 4 will not close the door to same-sex marriage. In fact, it will open the door for same-sex marriage. If the door is presently opened, the question is, why hasn't it been challenged today? When persons of the transgender and LGBT community would wish to be able to marry, why haven't they challenged it today if the door is open?
I don't believe that there's anything in the Constitution that forbids the government from doing right. The Constitution forbids them doing wrong.
Here are the 7 reasons to vote no on Bill number 4. Reason number 1. The government has refused to amend the Constitution to define marriage as a union between a born male and a born female. Reason number 2. The government has refused to accept the recommendation of the Constitutional Commission to make the position clear that same-sex marriages are not permitted under our Constitution. Reason number 3. By refusing to define marriage in the Constitution as a union between a born male and a born female, and by amending the Constitution to prohibit discrimination based on sex, the door will be open to provide a constitutional right to same-sex marriages and or recognition of same-sex unions. Reason number 4. There is currently a growing trend for courts and judges to define sex to include sexual orientation, no matter how it may otherwise be defined. We should not amend our Constitution to add sex in Article 26(3), because by doing so, a judge following the current trend would be able to treat sex and sexual orientation in the same manner and thereby protect same-sex unions. Reason number 5. If the amendments proposed in Bill number 2 and Bill number 4 are passed in the referendum, the government may then, without consultation with the people, ignore the wishes of the people, amend the Matrimonial Causes Act, and legitimize same-sex marriages. The result would be that the foreign same-sex husband or same-sex wife of a Bahamian man or woman who marries outside the Bahamas would be entitled to be registered as a citizen of the Bahamas. Reason number 6. The government did not keep their word to honor the results of the gambling referendum, which proves that their word cannot be trusted. However, this is a binding referendum which amends or refuses to amend the Constitution. The government is mandated to stand by the results. This time, your no vote cannot be ignored when you reject the amendments to the Constitution. Reason number 7. This is the most important referendum in our nation's history. There's too much at stake. We agree with leading and distinguished constitutional experts that there is nothing wrong with our Constitution, including Article 26. The insertion of the word sex in Article 26(3) will set the stage for the introduction of same-sex marriage, the recognition of same-sex unions, and the erosion of the moral fabric of our nation. So don't stay at home. Be sure to go to the polls and vote no on Bill number 4.
Do you know that the government refused to accept the recommendation to enshrine marriage in our Constitution as being between a born male and a born female? And do you also know that the government refused to accept the recommendation of their own appointed Constitutional Commission to make the position clear? That same-sex marriages are not permitted under the Constitution. As a professional woman and a mother of 2, I am deeply concerned about the direction that our country is going in. So let's be sure and close the door and vote no on Bill number 4.
This ad is sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee. Many Bahamians have also come to the conclusion that there is indeed a hidden agenda behind this entire referendum.
Well, I'm not confused. I see his agenda, but I don't agree with it. His agenda is not to deal with citizenship so much, because they have the power to do it already. His agenda is to change Article 26 to reflect what Mr. Christie said in 2014 or 2015 last year, that we must get in step with the rest of the world with regard to the way we treat people of the LGBT community. He said that. If he denies it, I'll produce the paper for it. I'll get it from the Guardian or the Tribune, wherever he said it. You know, that's why I brought my papers, some of my papers. And the reason why I say that is, in addition to what I just said, don't forget that in his speech Mr. Christie pointed out that Mr. Biden, the Vice President of the United States, had indicated that he would deal with countries like ours if we didn't get on board with that agenda in a particular way, which was in itself a threat, an economic threat. And that some leaders, religious leaders in this country, have said to their followers, or what they think of their followers, but I think the flock belong to God, not them, that if we do vote for these, we'll be ensuring prosperity for future generations. That's why I said earlier, I will not sell my birthright for a mess of pottage. It comes down to what is really important to you and to me. Is it important that we stand for what we say we believe, or are we going to be swayed by every wind of change? Are we going to follow the Pied Piper and the glamour of getting the rats out of the country, and in fact, we run into the river and drown?
Women around this nation know that they're not being denied any kind of rights in any way. And if that is the case, if they're not being denied any rights, then we must ask ourselves the question, why? Why this bill? And the only answer we can come up with is there must be a covert reason. There must be a hidden agenda that the government would want to introduce this particular bill and insert sex in our Constitution so that it can open the door to same-sex marriage.
All roads lead to Bahamas Faith Ministry. This coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016, for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. Come and be informed about why we are voting no on Bill number 4. There will be special presentations from Mr. Harvey Tynes QC, the Honorable Gregory Moss, Member of Parliament for Marco City, Pastor Mario Moxie, and for the first time on our community forum, retired Justice Dame June Sawyer. We will also share the 7 reasons why you should vote no on Bill number 4. Live this coming Sunday, June 5th, 2016 at the Miles E. Monroe Diplomat Center, starting at 7 p.m. So calling all churches, youth groups, and Bahamians everywhere, join us for the final Save Our Bahamas Vote No Community Forum. We want to see you there. The following are remarks from Dame June Sawyer regarding the referendum.
I don't believe that there's anything in the Constitution that forbids the government from doing right. The Constitution forbids them doing wrong. Article 26 and the whole of those provisions from 16 onwards are not concerned with gender issues. His agenda is to change Article 26 to reflect what Mr. Christie said in 2014 or 2015 last year, that we must get in step with the rest of the world with regard to the way we treat people of the LGBT community. And the point about laws, I understood it, is you don't draft laws for those with good intention, how they will interpret it, but those with bad intention. You want to prevent them from having an opportunity to exercise those bad intentions.
Vote no on Bill number 4 on Referendum Day. This ad is being sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee.
We believe in the preamble of this nation. We believe in a nation that espouses Christian values. We believe that we as a people must continually raise the standard of spiritual intensity, moral integrity, and physical purity. By marking your vote to no, you are actually raising the standard in our nation. This referendum is a constitutional referendum, which simply means that it is a binding referendum. The government does not have the authority to undo what you will do in this referendum. When you go to the polls on June 7th and you mark your X to no, no government can change that. You have a voice and you are empowered, so exercise that voice. Get out to the polls come June 7th. Mark your X with confidence because the government cannot change it. Don't stay at home. Don't be caught napping. Go out and encourage as many people as you can to do the same and vote no come June 7th.
This ad is being sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No.
Do you know that the government refused to accept the recommendation to enshrine marriage in our Constitution as being between a born male and a born female? And do you also know that the government refused to accept the recommendation of their own appointed Constitutional Commission to make the position clear? that same-sex marriages are not permitted under the Constitution. As a professional woman and a mother of two, I am deeply concerned about the direction that our country is going in. So let's be sure and close the door and vote no on Bill number 4.
This ad is sponsored by the Save Our Bahamas Vote No Committee. Since the government decided to betray democracy and the wishes of the Bahamian people by overturning the results of the last gambling referendum, many feel that voting in this referendum would be a waste of time and that the government would simply do what they feel.
It is important that Bahamian registered voters go out to the polls and vote on referendum day on June 7th. We know that many people are disillusioned over the fact that the government did not abide by the results of the gambling referendum. There's a difference here between the gambling referendum and this constitutional referendum. Under this constitutional referendum, the government has no choice but to abide by the majority voting in this referendum. And so, with regard to Bill number 4 in particular, when you vote no to Bill number 4, you are maintaining the status quo as it presently exists. You're not denying anybody of anything. The only thing you're denying is you're denying the yes vote to prevail. And so it is important that Bahamians go out and vote on referendum day. If you do not go out and vote on referendum day, you are contributing to the yes vote. And if you want the yes vote to succeed, then you stay home. But if you want to ensure that same-sex marriage is not introduced through the back door in this country, then you need to go out to the polls and vote no, and encourage as many people as you possibly can to vote no, and advise them of the dangers of a yes vote succeeding. And so, please, go to the polls, vote no, and let's maintain the status quo. Let's close the door on Bill number 4.
You know, in 2013, we fought tremendously hard against the expansion of gambling in this nation. And the Bahamian people went out to the polls and voted hands down, no, we do not want to see the expansion of gambling. Yet the government still went ahead and legislated. I want to make it abundantly clear, that was extremely undemocratic thing to do. It was very undemocratic. Nonetheless, I don't want you to be discouraged based on the results of the last referendum. That was a national poll, a special legislation that the government had enacted just to carry it out. This referendum is a constitutional referendum, which simply means that it is a binding referendum. The government does not have the authority to undo what you will do in this referendum. When you go to the polls on June 7th and you mark your X to no, no government can change that. You have a voice and you are empowered, so exercise that voice. Get out to the polls come June 7th. Mark your X with confidence because the government cannot change it. Don't stay at home. Don't be caught napping. Go out and encourage as many people as you can to do the same and vote no come June 7th.